5:30 already, and we're on the go. But I'm going to read you a story that will pale in comparison to anything we've had to do on this ride. The story is called Charlie, and I'm going to have a hard time with it. Todd asked me to tell my story. It is a long one, and I will try to keep it short. Our story started in July 2001, and it will never end. My 11-year-old son, Charlie, was the life of his class and friends, a true character and shit disturber, the life of the party. He played hockey, soccer, the drums, and more than anything, he loved to snowboard and act up with his friends. When Charlie was around, there was never a dull moment. Unfortunately, you know where this is going. As difficult as it is, I will try to make this brief, as it is a very long and painful story. On Monday, Charlie thought he hurt his leg playing soccer. Wednesday, the doctor and x-rays. Friday, a call at work from a frantic wife to say they want us to take Charlie to Halifax to the Children's Hospital. On July 28, 2001, at 11:28 a.m., he started a new life at the IWK. The doctor told me after looking at the x-ray that he thought Charlie had cancer. 6 more hours of tests. But worse, how do I compose myself long enough to phone Karen? She arrived at the hospital with her parents, and I told my wife that her baby had cancer. It felt like I was standing at the elevator, and everyone that came off had a baseball bat and hit me in the gut. I couldn't imagine what Karen was going through. And what about Dan, whose 13th birthday was in 2 days? We stayed at the hospital all night, and it was the first time I'd ever watched an infomercial. Karen and I did not sleep. Saturday a.m., Charlie was wheeled into the OR for a biopsy. The sign read, OR Suites. Charlie said, "This isn't sweet." From the lobby, he was to be wheeled into an OR room. He stood up and said, "I'll walk," and with a single tear rolling down his cheek, he walked into his nightmare. This is where I'll try to be brief. On Tuesday, the biopsy proved positive for osteogenic sarcoma, the same disease Terry Fox had. The doctor said, this is not necessarily a death sentence. From Wednesday to Saturday, numerous baseline tests were completed. On Saturday, surgery was completed to move 11 baby teeth and insert a portacath. Chemo started immediately. He required 6 courses of 5 weeks each. Barfing started almost within hours. Everything that goes into you and out of you is measured. During the first course of chemo, he averaged 25 times a day, not counting dry heaves. Every day, it was worse than the following course. He developed mucositis and couldn't swallow. Needless to say, his trademark, beautiful curly hair fell out. Karen and I took turns staying with Charlie. He was never alone. We slept, if that's the word, in his room. Over the next 8 months, we spent 92% of the time in the hospital. Charlie was released periodically, only to let him know he'd eventually get out. We rushed him to the hospital from home in the middle of the night more than once. A feeding tube had to be put in his belly. He couldn't swallow. Twice, he developed life-threatening fungal infections. At times, he had 6 IV lines in him. After 10 weeks of chemo, a break had to be taken to remove the tumor in his leg. On our way to our first surgeon's meeting, we had to stop to let a pedestrian cross the road. He was on crutches with only one leg. "Dad, I hope that won't happen to me." A child's fears that we can't imagine. "Don't worry, buddy, you'll be fine." A father's unsure response. The surgery went well. The final report said there was no indication of a tumor. Yes, 100% was killed by the 10 weeks of chemo. Only 6 more months of poison, and we're home free, including Christmas. The day after surgery, and before the report, while on the surgery floor, rather than on the oncology floor, the cleaning lady said, "Why is he here?" often looking at his bald head. His dad said, "He has cancer." From the drug of a drugged little boy in severe pain. One eye opened, and the words were spoken, "Had cancer." Charlie knew it was cut out and gone. The torture continued. On March 23rd, 2002, 2 days before his 12th birthday, we escaped and went home for good. Months and months for strength to return, but we were home, and his baby brother and buddies were with him constantly. Dan, only 20 months older, finally had his little brother back and both of his parents. 15 months later, with a routine checkup, we had a fantastic report. Home for an hour or two and the phone rang. They hadn't noticed a shadow. The golf ball-sized tumor on his lung ended up being the size of an orange. 4 more months of different chemo. Loss of hair again, abdominal pain so severe that he screamed and agreed to take the morphine that he hated so much. When it returned, the doctor and I met to tell Charlie. He rolled over, pounded his pillow, and yelled, "Fuck." He asked the doctor 2 questions. When will it start? When will I be able to snowboard? He started that day, and he was on his board the day the hill opened. What a trooper. A few weeks later, he broke his arm snowboarding. 6 months later, it was back in his lungs and spine. My buddy Roy, who visited Charlie every single day, was outside with Charlie when Dr. Fernandez told me there was nothing further they could do. Don't even try to imagine hearing such news. How do you continue to live? How do you tell your little boy? How do you tell his mom or his adoring brother? A few days later, we meet with surgeons who were willing to perform radical surgery to remove a large part of Charlie's lung and 3 other parts from his spine. Surgery was hours and hours. It was successful with the implant of a mechanical device in his back to replace the vertebrae. However, there was a small, dark spot on the spine. Thus, 27 radiation treatments. We drove to Halifax from Truro every day. Charlie had moved from grade 6 to grade 9 at the new junior high. He never got to attend grade 9. At radiation 23, a tumor appeared on his left leg. More tests, and the doctor wanted us to stay for results. I couldn't drive home again with my little pal after such terrible news, so I told him to call us. They stopped counting after 25 tumors in his lungs. September 2004. Charlie slowly lost use of his left side. He tried to be normal. He stayed over with friends, but one night returned at 2 a.m. when he thought he had a tumor in his mouth. The leg tumor continued to grow at a gross level and ruptured. It spread to his brain and back. He was in severe pain and delusional at times, but he told a friend he wouldn't ruin her Christmas. He died at 6:04 a.m. on December 28, 2004 at age 14. The pain will never end, the changes in time. Our family was torn apart, but we have survived. Grief so deep that you physically shake and avoid even going to the grocery store until 10 at night. Dan couldn't even go to school. Karen was almost paralyzed with grief. Not much wonder that 89% of marriages lose a child don't survive. This is my story. Not even I can imagine my wife's pain or that of his brother. Yes, we have to beat cancer, but pediatric cancer is unreasonable in the depths of its destruction of lives and families. Dan once said to me, "Dad, you lost your son. I lost my only brother and best friend." Thank you to all of you for the light. This trip is not about us individually. It is about raising money to win the war. Like Ron at Denny said, who knows, maybe my $20, Ron's waiter at Denny said, who knows, maybe my $20 will find a cure. When Charlie was 11, he said he wanted to become a biochemist and find a cure. 30 years ago, when Terry Fox had osteo, there was a 30% chance of survival. 9 years ago, when Charlie had osteo, the chance of survival was 70%. As has been said of Terry Fox, he has given many of us hope instead of despair. Thank you for helping to give others hope. That was Chris's story. I don't think Chris stayed in the room. Guys, what we've been doing is supposed to be hard. So shit like that doesn't have to happen. And maybe it'll be my kids or your kids or their grandkids. But that doesn't have to happen. It's supposed to be hard out here. And, if stuff went wrong or we were hard on you, it was for a reason, because we got to get through this. Jonathan, would you like to say something?
Yeah. Don't know how you follow up that, but anyway, ironically or perhaps fittingly, I received news yesterday evening that my dad has prostate cancer, and it's his second bout with cancer. He had testicular cancer when he was my age, and so I just want to share it with all of you because you guys become such like family to me. So be thinking about him, and I'll be thinking about him today as we finish in Austin.
Thanks. So guys, I know that Meg's team rode for Charlie, but today we're riding for Charlie and for Charlie's father and for every name on the back of our jerseys. We're a family now, and sometimes families fight, but they stick together, and that's what we'll do today. And there are some pictures going around of Charlie. I'd like to make sure that those get back to Chris. There are 3 of them, so please make sure that happens. There's breakfast is ready for us. And where's Paul? Where are you? Just tell me if I get this wrong. As far as the logistics of today goes,